guys. So we're midterm, and with that, we're starting to think, how did we do this last semester? How far have we come? Where are we now? And then that sort of precipitates the next question, doesn't it, of where are we going to go? So I'm already starting to plan, probably many of you are. And so I thought I would show you how I plan, exactly what I plan for my curriculum picks. And the video for my picks will come out on the 31st of March. It came out last year on the 31st of March, and I've been posting videos pretty regularly every Monday, and the 31st of March this year is Monday, so handy. It's going to work out that way. But in the meantime, I'd like to show you how I plan and kind of give you tell you some of the things that I'm thinking about. One is, I wished I had waited a little longer, but as a vlogger, we all want to show you the stuff. We want you to see it. We want to give you flip throughs before you're the one who purchased. But we also make mistakes. So I wanted to show you some of my mistakes. I also want to walk you through the pages that I use, that I draw up every year. And I didn't show that last year, but these are almost identical, at least the layout, not the actual text, but the layout. But all the way from writing down state requirements to my requirements as a homeschool, what I want, and then our core, and then our secondary requirements, and how those things, this doesn't have necessarily a lot of curriculum on it. It has ideas for curriculum. It has things that I know that I want to think about and what I want to do, but it's not the actual curriculum picks. It's really the process of getting there. And there are a few things that I think are really helpful for planning in this way. One is, homeschool can be complicated. It can be as complicated as you want to make it. Strangely, it's harder to make it simple. But when you plan strategically like this with a lot of detail, it's easier to visually distill it down towards something closer to simplicity. At least simple for you and how you think. So this is my way of planning, and it won't be your way, but perhaps it'll give you some ideas. But I wanted to talk to you about some regrets that I had because I purchased early. I don't think purchasing early during the sales, does that save anybody money? I don't think that saves anybody money. But the curriculum that I had decided not to use, because I really made the command decision to switch to Waldorf. So we switched to live education in the summer and had to drop some things. And that was The Good and the Beautiful. And The Good and the Beautiful we had used as unit studies. Their science units are just great. They're visually appealing. One homeschool Christian mom called The Good and the Beautiful Christian Light. So it actually works quite well for secular parents too. And I had purchased marine biology. This actually comes for free if you just want to download it and print it yourself. Motion and simple machines, weather and water, and also chemistry. So these are great. They're wonderful programs. We're going to keep them, maybe, I don't know. If we don't use them in the next couple of years, then probably what I'll do is a giveaway or something. But it's a shame to let that go. But I'm glad that I did, because it really is, and I already think I mentioned in the last video, it's no surprise we're going to use live education next year. We're really excited about it. And that's going to be on the pages when I flip around and show you. But something before I do that, I wanted to show you what I do also, because I'm really looking ahead beyond the 6th grade. We're in the 5th grade now. We're going to the 6th grade. But something I've started to do is buy curriculum ahead of time and screen it, and specifically for high school stuff. And high school texts, it's really funny, because once you hit 9th grade, nobody wants to give you a flip through. There's no flip throughs. There are none. You just jump off the cliff. And what I have found is, when you look to see some of the high school texts, they can be upwards of $350. That's just for the textbooks. That's not for a course. That's not for the workbook. But what I found is, if you buy the older editions on a used bookstore, I use thrift books, there's Better World Books. But here's an example. This biology course, this is actually a college course, but you could probably use it for AP. This is massive, it's huge. I showed it to my stepdaughter, who is a biomedical engineer, and she said, this is more than anybody really does need to know. But the thing is, this book is upwards of $200 as the newest edition. This is the 10th edition, and I bought it for $13. I also got the study guide for almost nothing. And the study guide, I think it came listed as used. and it's not used at all. It's in great condition. So this is what I'm doing. I bought a physics book also. This is a couple $100, and a lot of people use Paul Hewitt. This is Conceptual Physics. This is the 9th edition. This was 13, a lot of them just $13 or $9. That's sort of the going rate for thrift books. But I really like this physics book. We may actually use it for high school. And so what I did was I bought the matching, the one that goes to the right edition. I bought the workbook, and there's nobody has written in the workbook, and this was, I think, $7. Otherwise, this would be hundreds of dollars. But not only does it save money, but it really helps you plan, because the last thing I want to do is get into a really, really meaty, serious topic in high school and buy the book and then realize it doesn't work for us, or there was something better had I known, had I been able to flip through. Flipping through for $10 is way cheaper than spending hundreds of dollars later and then wasting time trying to figure it out. High school is not the time to figure things out. I'd rather take the time to do it now. Another example is I bought this out of many. I go to UND bookstore every fall just to see what's on, see what the kids are learning. And I got this one. It's the second volume. There's 2 volumes. This is the second one. It's American History. That was $48. So then I come home, I get online, and I find the AP version, both volumes 1 and 2, for $10. It's identical. I know because I flipped page by page, all 825. There's minor differences, like editing differences, or maybe the photo is on the left side of the page as opposed to the right side. So if you want a really good AP course or anything, if you're looking for anything, look around. You don't have to buy new. There's not a lot of history that's changed. History's static, but our impression of it changes. So there's not a lot that needs to be amended here, I think, that if I were to keep this into high school. But I'm having the hardest time with American history, but that's for another subject. And then again, for critical thinking, I like this book a lot. This is $75 new, and this version is the 3rd edition. There was the 2nd and the 4th edition also for $7, I think, but I bought this one because I like the cover. I like surfing. But this is written to the child. It's critical thinking written to the kid, and this would be really great for a really strategic 8th grader or any kid in any grade in high school. And then what I do is, if I know I'm going to keep this, I'm fairly certain this is going to be used either by me or by Morgan. I print things and I staple them onto the inside, and I write a bunch of notes on the inside so that as I'm reviewing it now, I can remember what it is that was concerning me or what I wanted to think about a year or 2 down the line when I really start writing the syllabus for it. So by purchasing a used book, I think sometimes there's tons of great flip throughs, but sometimes just having it in your hands and really flipping through and taking the time to read the pages gives you time for your own quiet thoughts and writing down your own notes in order to develop a curriculum. And that's not something that everybody is going to do. I think that what I'm doing might be a bit of what an outlier might do because I really have the intention to create my own syllabi for each of the classes. For now, Morgan's going to let me do it, so that's the plan. Now what I'll do is I'll flip you around and I will show you step by step how I plan and what I'm going to do with it. In my desk, I keep a generic file folder, and it's very sparse. It'll stay very sparse, but you never know when you're going to need to get very official very fast, and so I keep a few things in here and I can fill it out if I need. So here's a few things that I always like to have on hand. The statement of intent for home education for the state of North Dakota. This is what I fill out every year and hand to our superintendent to make sure that he knows and the school and the state know that we are homeschooling. It's really easy to fill out and it's due within 2 weeks of actual school starting. And then here are a few printouts that I like to keep, and I always remind myself, I double check where everything comes from, because if it's not from the state or my superintendent, I really need to be careful to make sure that everything is updated. So each year I double check that what I'm doing is updated from current North Dakota code. And here we have English language arts, these are the requirements that we're going to focus on today. Math, social studies, science, physical education, and health. And so you can see that there are a few stipulations underneath each one that I need to pay attention to, and I do. This is kind of cute. I don't know if I'll ever use it. Maybe I will for Morgan's senior year of high school. I'll give this to her. And then if you're a portfolio state, it's always nice to have kind of a reminder of things that are helpful to go into your portfolio. And that's it, a grading scale. This is pretty much all that's in here, and I'll probably never add to it. And then what I find helpful is I take a really big book, not a small one, and I find that the flips are easier because I like to just only work on one page. So this is what I used for here, and here are state requirements. So according to the code, we have reading, comprehension, spelling, vocabulary, grammar, and writing that are mandatory under ELA every year. Math, there's no specifics, no stipulations other than we have to do math. For science, I do have an agricultural study that's specific to North Dakota. This is easy. I think it's due on any year, but I don't pay attention to that because we do agricultural studies every year. Social studies is U.S. Constitution, U.S. history, geography, U.S. government, and North Dakota studies, specifically in the 4th and 8th grades. We did it already in the 4th grade, and we actually are doing it again in the 5th grade. This is something I'm really not going to spend a lot of time paying actual attention to of which year did we do it, because we do it every year because I think it's important. And then health we have here with some specific and obvious topics. They always want us to cover the real obvious things of general health and addiction, etc., that type of thing. We will do that, but I have some ideas for something that I want to do with Morgan because she's very interested in it for the 6th grade, and it ties into Waldorf education. So I will probably build on this with some specific curriculum later on some other time. And then PE. We don't talk a lot about PE, but it is really important and we do it daily. Down here, I guess this would be Cornell notes, because down here I like to kind of remind myself of the things that I only ever consult the State Department of Education or our superintendent. If you don't have a good relationship with your superintendent, build one. And if you don't know your State Department of Education, you should call and talk to them. We're a small, low population state. Maybe it's different in California, but if you call in North Dakota, somebody will actually pick up the phone and talk to you right there. And here is to remind myself to notify the school at least 2 weeks before public school starts. And I usually try to hand this in at the end of our current year, school year, so that it's just done and I don't forget about it over the summer. We are a portfolio state, and I wanted to remind myself here to show you last year's green binder. And so in it, there's everything. And I cover our attendance and our courses and all of our North Dakota studies and world history, French, reading comprehension, science, and math. In the very back, I also keep our state test results. And I just am going to always have one of these a year. All right, and then this is not required for me. I'm not required to test Morgan or have a teacher supervisor because I have a degree and I have to show proof. And now these days I just wrote it's on file because they know I have a degree and I already handed in my diploma. So these are the things that will keep you legal. These are my requirements. And in first place are, no surprise, French, math, and reading. Second place is everything else. Now, no one is telling me exactly how much of any particular thing that I need to do. It stands to reason that if we do a lot of reading, we're also going to be handling spelling and vocabulary and grammar and writing. But predominantly I focus on reading. And this is sort of like the comet, and then the comet trail, everything that follows up behind it or follows and necessarily gets better because of reading is all the other parts of ELA. But I do make sure that we cover them. And the reason why I put everything else is second place is because I want to remind myself here under my requirements when I write my notes that if everything is equally important, we just don't do anything. We don't do enough of an important core or something that we really want. I don't want to be a mile wide and an inch deep necessarily. There are some things that are okay for that, but right now I really want to be really dug into French, math, and reading. If I make everything equally important and everything gets an equal amount of time, a fair share of our day, then these are lesser and less important, and I think that we will struggle if we don't have those. So this is something that I want to keep in mind. I also always rewrite our motto and double check that that's what we want it to be. We came up with this in the 3rd grade before we started homeschooling. I asked Morgan what her motto wanted to be, And we came up with the Patterson Academy for the Smart, Funny, and Adventurous. We named our school and we decided who and what we were going to be during school. And the means by which we do it is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That's also something that we live by. Inch by inch, day by day, we continue with consistency, and that's how we succeed. And then our code of ethics is based off of my time in the Navy: honor, courage, and commitment. You can't go wrong keeping all three of those in mind. So from here, I'm aware that I need to cover down here, and I'm aware that I want to keep these things at the forefront. So to do that, I take these first. Here are my core subjects. French. We did the Well-Trained Mind Academy, or are doing that now, with French 1B. And there's 1A and 1B, and then there's French 1. And French 1 is French 1A and B together. So that's what Morgan's going to do. She'll move into French 1 next year. We already have the texts for it. Unless they switch it out, we already have the text. We don't have to get anything for there. I'm doing summer immersion in France with Morgan. And then after that, I want to find a one-on-one tutor to help Morgan pass the DELF this Christmas. She's expressed her interest in really wanting to study for the DELF exam, and that would be offered in Minneapolis in the winter. So when we come back, I need to find either a tutor for her that she already knows from her summer course, or one from Alliance Française, which we had done last year, and that worked out really, really well. So then I need to remember we're going to do the DELF exam, and we always do Duolingo. I've explained why I keep Duolingo. It's so important for us to always do something with French every single day that doesn't change, that drives this sort of like, if you draw it like this is the underlying kind of heartbeat of keeping things going. And then I study with Morgan on Monday, and then Tuesday she has her class, and then Wednesday she studies with me, and Thursday she has her class, and then Friday is just Duolingo, but we're always doing French, and Duolingo helps with that. So here are our texts. We don't need anything new, except I want to get Morgan a dictionary. The Larousse student edition is a good one, I think, so she'll have her first dictionary for that. She has a verb book now, but I think she could use a dictionary now. And then things that I need to remind myself to do: I need to register. We've already registered for the immersion course, and I don't have to register for, let's see, I need a DELF tutor. I don't have to register for the DELF yet, probably not until the fall. And then the Well-Trained Mind Academy French registration opens actually for current students. It's January 21st, I think. So that's the day that we will register for the course. Okay, so none of this will check off anything here because French is not a state requirement, but it is my requirement. Checking it off. All right, math. We're doing math, Math UC Zeta next year. We'll have some warm-up math. I know we're going to continue to use keto fractions if we don't finish them this year. Then Pepper and Pine mental math. We've been using that. We really like it. So if we finish what we have already, we'll buy the next round of her mental math. And we also want to buy her geometry courses as well online. Those look really fantastic. If you know Pepper and Pine, if you've watched her videos, she offers some courses that kind of walk you through, and we'll most likely buy her physics videos as well. And then the key to geometry, that is a live education suggestion because geometry is next year for their fifth grade. The grades are different. You can be in 5th year and be in 5th grade or 6th grade. It just depends on when you come into the live education and what year you want to do them in. Then we have, let's see, there's some specifics here for texts that I want to make sure that I consider purchasing. All right, math, done. And for the state, done. The third core subject is reading. This is a program that I create myself. I don't have any curriculum that I follow, so I select, you know, if you've seen my videos, I select our own books. Last year I bought a whole ton for the 5th grade, and we haven't gone through them all. None of them are wasted. We eventually will, but we might not this year. So what I think I'd like to do is, because our tastes and our just stuff changes, that what is on my shelf may not necessarily be what we feel like reading. And I am really, really, really pushing the kid reads what she wants. And so if we're just not feeling a book on the shelf and she has another idea for a book, I'm absolutely going to let her read that. So I think I won't buy as many books, but I will, for the first main lesson of live education, we are studying India. And so I want to make sure that I have some readers ready for that. And then I also want to rely on my 100 classics list, my 100 nonfiction list that I've created there, and am sort of both curating and it's a living document, so I'm adding to it or pulling things off all of the time, but I am using that to track our reading. And a student dictionary and a thesaurus. Morgan doesn't have a thesaurus, but she has a massive dictionary. It's actually so big I can't put it on this table. I really think that she needs one that she can put at her desk and pick up with one hand. And then there's a kid's encyclopedia that I'm thinking about purchasing, so I want to make sure that I put that there so that I don't forget about it. But I'm not going to buy it now. I'm going to think on it for a little while and see if, a week later I read through this and look and go, meh, then maybe it was just a bright idea at the time, but not something that I want to do. And also, I want to purchase as many used books as I can because, number one, it makes me happy. I love the idea of recycling books. I love reading what other people have written and the inscriptions. I love the smell of the books and giving them a second opportunity in this house. So, reading right here for my requirements, check. And 6th grade state requirements, done there. Now, the secondary subjects, which is pretty much everything else. Creative writing. Morgan does her own creative writing in her journal every day. She does a front and back page at least every morning. I use writing prompts. Sometimes it can be something that she's researched that she wants to write about. She's slowly actually writing her own essays without even realizing that that's what she's doing. And as long as it continues in that trajectory, we're good here. I also have most on hand that I purchased last year that we are still using. Some we haven't used yet that I would like to use still in the future. We just don't need to buy anything more. I'll show you what we do have though. These are the books that I like, Morgan likes, and we will just continue using them. We've gone through a lot of this, How to Write a Novel Before You're 13, and then the workbook. Interesting though, I don't think you need the workbook because there's workbook portions in here, and Morgan's work tends to go into her green writing journal instead of this workbook. So that wasn't necessary, but it was kind of fun to have in the beginning. The creative writer, level 1, does anybody really need level 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, or however many there are? I don't know. I think you can make this as simple or as advanced as you want. And so we probably won't get level 2. We'll just stick with it because I'm so comfortable with writing. I don't know that I need another program for that. But this one is funny, and I think when Morgan gets into high school, this would be really fun to do with her because this is Save the Cat, the last book on screenwriting that you'll ever need. And then I bought 2 workbooks so I could do it along with Morgan for fun sometime. So we're going to keep on with that. This is a really great example of the longer you do this, the more you have on hand already. It's nice to know that I'm already pulling from the shelves rather than buying. So creative writing, or writing in general. I don't need to check that off my requirements, but it's a state requirement, so that's done. In fact, I don't need to put this here on the top at all because my requirements are covered. Then we have live education. There is Intro to Geometry, Ancient India. This is in order that we'll do them, and this is important too because this is going to drive pretty much when I start to really plan for each course and when I buy the books for the course. This coming year, I don't want to, for instance, right here, Ancient Egypt will be covered in the 2nd semester of the 6th grade, and I don't want to buy the books now. I just don't. I worry that if I buy them now, they won't be the ones necessarily that we're interested in later on. I just don't have to do that. So what I will do though is make sure I've got the geometry books on hand, the books for Ancient India and Botany, and that's pretty much it, the first 3 main lessons. And this will be the first one for the readers for literature. And if you've seen a previous video, you know that I read Monsoon Summer and I want Morgan to read that. So that will be one of her readers there. So we have Intro to Geometry, Ancient India, Botany 1, Ancient Persia, North American Geography 1, Math Practice with Decimals, Ancient Mesopotamia, Geometry with Graphs and Estimation, North American Geography Part 2, Ancient Egypt, Botany Part 2, Greek Myths with Homer's Odyssey. We love geography here. We love geography. And my sister is a big geographer. I probably could have, if I wasn't a history major in college, I probably would have gone into geography. So this is really, really fun. Just one more reason why we like live education. And botany actually is really going to play into health this year because we are really big gardeners here. We have a big backyard vegetable garden, and Morgan loves to make her own teas and design her own teas, and she does her own gardening. She's got her own plot. What I would like to do with health is probably have something to do with botany and growing your own plants for health purposes and for teas, maybe an herbal garden. Here you see we've got geometry, and because math is a core, we have a lot of math. What will be consistent is zeta, the warm-ups, the mental math. Those will certainly be every day. So what can we check off here? We already have, for state requirements, we've already got math. We'll have history, but not US history. The North American geography will also add history there, and I have the history books. So we got history, we have geography. I have a little book on the Constitution and a book on civics, and we don't need to do that, but we are going to do it anyway. So we're covered there. And all the rest is world history. So that's good. And a little bit of something to read there. So what do we have left? Oh, science is botany. So we've got it there. Done. So this is a reminder here for me that each main lesson requires that I curate my own books. The live education gives you examples, and they will have a suggested spine or 3 suggested spines, and you can pick one. And then the rest is really up to you to build your lesson, which I love. So that's a little reminder there, and also a reminder to wait on purchasing Beyond Botany 1 right here so that I have really unrushed time. And if Morgan changes, then I don't have to switch out curriculum. I can just look and go, oh, well, I don't have anything for ancient Persia yet. It's time for that. And so I can buy really knowing that we're going to use them right away. Now, these are the things that I already have on hand. I have the next Fix It Grammar. I have Michael Clay Thompson's Grammar Town, and I have the Well-Trained Mind Purple Book. We put a pause this semester on grammar, and I had talked about that in an earlier video. This one is going off to the side because we did the whole of Fix It last year. I like Fix It Grammar except for when they want you to write out the parts of speech in the sentence, they offer the student, they tell you how many of each there are, so it's easier to check them off rather than come up with the names on their own. They don't have to think that something is a noun. They know that there's one noun there. And I think it's too easy. So, but Morgan likes it, and we have another one. And we have Grammar Town, we haven't started it yet, and we really like the Well-Trained Mind. The Purple Book is a little bit different than the previous first lessons for Well-Trained Mind. I want to revisit this in the 6th grade, but we don't need any more grammar. This actually is probably enough grammar that anybody really ever needs in their life unless they're going to be an English major. All right, so we've got grammar. Vocabulary, I have the highly selective series that I showed you guys. In fact, I have the books right here. So Morgan is pretty good with vocab. She's pretty strong here. And so I bought these kind of for fun. They're just used. They didn't cost anything at all. But looking through them, it'll be really fun to use interesting words with her and discover new things and then practice using them in sentences. So we've got vocab covered. And I also have a vocab cartoon a day that she can do if she wants to. That's something that she can do on a Friday on her own. But the selective series, we do vocabulary constantly all of the time. So we're covered there. All right, what are we missing? Comprehension and spelling. Oh, okay. Comprehension is done. We have done that. That comes under reading because when we read, there's several ways that we read, and I have a video on this, but one of the ways is when we read together, we pause the book and really have a good discussion. Morgan narrates, and then she takes the narration and she moves it into her journal, her creative writing journal. So we are already doing really well with that, covering down on that. And this year, and maybe next year, I'm not sure, spelling is done by way of Morgan making corrections by way of editing her work. And we will talk about how things are spelled. I would rather teach her spelling of words that she's going to use and is using. And her vocabulary is very high. So her spelling is trailing behind her vocab. We're using a lot of vocab, and when she uses it in a sentence when she writes, I work with her to correct it, and that's how we're learning. She's getting stronger with spelling. It's better than a spelling program. So far, that's the only thing that has increased or improved her spelling. Based off of what she misses in her writing, we write it down in a book, and those are the words she practices for her spelling, the words that she is using, not just some arbitrary word on a list. That doesn't work for her at all. So that's getting better. She's getting stronger at that, and we'll check that off. So we have everything for ELA, everything for math, for science, Social studies were good. Let's see. Oh, health. I want to think about, you might actually see these. I wrote them down. Herbalism, the tincture recipe book, Grow Your Own Medicine, and the Art of Herbal Healing. I think that would go really, really nicely with Live Education's Botany here. And because Morgan's already growing a lot of her own plants, her flowers. She grows her own vegetables each year in her own plot. I thought this would be a great tie-in between what she's already doing in the summer, enjoying growing things outside. She starts everything from seed with me in the shop. So she's really advanced in that regard. I think a lot of farm kids are, and I don't think this is a really big deal if you live the way we live. But I think tying this in with what she's already doing and the botany next year, in addition to her health, I think would be really, really great, because we do talk about this. We have stuff on the farm that you absolutely do not want to consume or you'll get sick. And so we talk about that. We know what we can and cannot eat. We know what we grow can be good for us or not. And so if you guys have, if there's anyone out there who has info or experience in herbalism, growing your own medicines, I'd love to hear your input on something. I'm looking for a pretty text, an engaging, simple one. But it doesn't need to be the basics of gardening. There's a lot of books on how to start, and we have that already. But this would be how to create your own teas, how to mix them, and if you mix certain ones, what they might do for your health. So that is checked. We'll also cover, let's see, I've got this book. I got this not knowing what to think about it when I ordered it, and I really, really like it. So we're working through this, The Health, Wellness, and Physical Fitness by Mark Twain Media Publishing Company. We like it a lot. In fact, I'll keep it, and if we need to, this time next year, when we've kind of not done it for a while, we can revisit the pages and review and refresh. So then PE, this is something we don't talk about a lot, but it is really important. Morgan does some form of it every day. We do swimming, yoga. She does tennis twice a week, and she goes to the gym with me. She's always running around. I really want to make sure that we continue to do that, and especially into our tweens and teens, that we don't lose the importance of these two things right here. PE and health really go hand in hand. And so there, PE. I can't remember if the state specified daily, but we do it daily anyway, whether it's a Saturday or Sunday or a weekday. All right, I think we've got everything. We covered my requirements and what I want to do. That comes first. And state requirements, I'm able to fulfill all of these things happily. I hope this video helps you with the trajectory of your own planning and what you want to do with your homeschool. It's your homeschool. Do what you want. See ya.